Welcome to the first episode of Career Paths. This series will be a little different than usual. We'll be discussing career paths with professionals in their field and just getting a background on all the career paths they chose. We're doing this just for those who don't know what they want to do or just simply are interested in other fields. So in this episode, we will have a real estate professional. She works with a national leasing company. She's worked in every field of real estate. Before we really get into discussing what a leasing and sales agent does, Robin, what do leasing and sales agents do?
Well, I currently am a leasing agent with a national property management company. Basically, I talk to leads and prospects and walk them through the entire process of what they're looking for in a home, a rental home, and then of course it's all annual rentals, up through the application process until move in. Move in is where basically a field inspector takes over to the orientating resident into the home, since every home is different. So every orientation is just a little bit different.
So how did you really get into doing leasing and sales agents? Was it a college you went to, or what kind of schooling did you have to do to get into that?
It's not necessarily a college or a degree, so to speak. I mean, I do have a college degree. However, it's more of a state license. So you do go to a real estate sales school, and then you could then go and pass the state licensing test. I currently have a South Carolina broker, a Georgia sales license, and then also a Florida sales license.
So with the schooling aspect of it, how long would schooling take?
Usually a couple of weeks, and then you have to be approved by the state licensing board to sit for the exam. So overall, you're about a month until you get your license.
So once you get your license and you actually start to use it, what do you do to actually get it activated and start using it?
Well, first thing, you'd have to pass the state exam, and then you locate a broker that you want to what's called hang your license with, or make your license active with them. Every broker is a little bit different depending on if it's a kind of a local mom and pop type broker shop or more so like a national RE/MAX. Each one has different fees, royalties, and then of course like your mom and pops, or sometimes you can just work out a straight 80-20 commission split.
So after you start to use your license, after a while, do you have to do continuing ed?
Yes, every 2 years for pretty much every state.
So how many hours of continuing ed do you have to do?
On average, you're between about 14 to 20 hours every 2 years.
So we're going to get into kind of a rough topic with all career paths. Let's talk about salary. So on average, how much does a leasing and sales agent make on a yearly rate?
Sales and leasing a little bit different. You're structured a little bit different on how you get paid. Sales is going to be more just commission only. So that's going to average about $72,000 a year. Leasing is broken down into hourly rates and then versus a fee or commission for each lease. And then, of course, there's other bonuses on top of, monthly bonuses if you hit goals or if you make your targeted percentage of rent growth.
So with the hourly rate, how would an average work week look in hours?
I work a lot, actually. My normal day is 9 to 10 hours a day. I don't work 24/7. I do, however, check in throughout the weekend. So I will say it's a 7-day-a-week job. When I do unplug for going on vacations and stuff like that, I do have other leasing agents that kind of help me. And then, of course, I help them whenever they're out of town as well. But I don't think I ever answered the salary commission question or the salary question for leasing. It was around $60,000.
Okay. So with leasing agents, how would the bonuses look? Would it be based on how many leases you get out, or how would that work?
A couple different ways. I guess it depends on the company you work for. I mean, who I work for, they do give you a projected target each goal. Let's just say, for instance, your target was 20 leases for the month, which is about average. Sometimes it's been more, sometimes it's been less, depending on the beginning of the month inventory that you have in your own territory. If you were to make goal by, let's just say, a certain time of the month, sometimes they say if you make goal by the third week of the month, it's a bonus of $1,000 a month for that particular month. That's not every month, and they do structure it differently. Sometimes it's a bonus of a $500. We do have a bonus structure set up now that if you are within, or if you're over 1% of the targeted rent growth, then it's an additional, it could be up to $750 bonus a month.
Would being a sales agent just be commission based, or would there be bonuses as well with that?
Usually if it's sales, there's a couple different avenues you could go with sales. Sales could be just strictly working like general real estate where you're representing either the buyers or the sellers. In that scenario, you're not really going to look at bonuses. You're only looking at making 3 to 6% off the sale, and that's of course the sale of the property, the dollar amount of that sale. New construction and on-site sales, if you're working for a builder, they also set up different targets and goals for you each month. That structure, you can get bonuses, just depending on if they have different promotions they're running each month. I have worked in new construction sales, so it is set up a little bit differently. Yes, you do have a hourly base, and then of course you do make less of a percentage on the sale of the home. It's not like a general where you're making 3 to 6%. You only might be making 1 to 2.5% of the sale of the home. However, you are getting paid hourly and you are eligible for bonuses.
So, as you said, you've experienced both sides of the real estate field. Which one do you prefer more?
I prefer leasing.
Why is that?
It's busier for me. It fits me better, my personality, talking to several different people, being able to help them through the process versus just kind of sitting in a new construction community waiting on someone to come in. And, most of the time in a situation like that, people are just coming in and getting decorating ideas because, of course, the model homes are absolutely beautiful. I prefer leasing over general sales simply because, in general sales, of course, you're only representing the buyers or sellers, sometimes both, depending on the transaction. But I believe that leasing is more stable.
It's kind of a personal question with the fields you're in. With leasing, do you enjoy what you do?
I do enjoy what I do.
So with that, what are your pros and cons with leasing?
Pros is, I would believe, helping someone. Clearly, everyone needs a place to live, helping them through the process. It's not easy sometimes, moving somewhere. We've moved a lot, so I can feel their pain. So sometimes I just kind of bring it down to reality to them. Like, yes, I do understand how you feel. I understand moving's a pain in the butt, but I can help you through it. Sometimes we make connections on a local level of someone that we can recommend for even just simple things like renter's insurance. It just takes the stress out of the whole moving. Hey, I've heard these movers are really good. Here's 3 of them. Give them a shout. Clearly you might just find a couple of guys off the street to help you move, but it's nice to just kind of help them make those connections and kind of put all the pieces together for them.
So it's kind of like a good Samaritan thing type of way?
Yeah.
Real estate, what are some of the pros and cons?
Pros and cons on a sales side, very similar to leasing. You are helping people. However, the cons are sitting there like a sitting duck, just waiting on someone to come in. It's a very competitive market as far as general real estate.
So with growth of both fields, how would sales growth look compared to a leasing growth? Or is there even sales growth?
There is. You're gonna have your home should sell more the second time it sells versus the first time it's sold. Of course, that just all depends on the economy and if we're going backwards or, if we're in a recession or actually.
What would hourly rate look like for a leasing agent?
A leasing agent hourly rate, it could vary between companies. I know people that work for a couple of the competitors, and I know that they make less per hour. You could be making anywhere from, 13 an hour up to 18 an hour. Now, mind you, that's just to cover an hourly rate. That's basically covering taxes a month and then also your insurance coverage. Where you really make the money is the leases that you write, because you can make anywhere from, depending on your structure, $100 a lease up to $200 a lease.
So for everyone listening interested about this field, so your commission is based on hourly rate, but then when you get leases out, you get more of a bonus in a way?
Right. So you get paid hourly. So, of course, like I said before, we work a lot of hours. So there's no shortage of being able to make money just as your regular hourly rate. But where you're really making the money as far as bonuses are going to be with the leases that you write each month. And then not to mention on top of the bonuses with the rent growth.
So for an average day of a leasing agent, what would it look like? How many calls would you make out?
I make between anywhere from 90 to about 125 calls a day.
So when you make those calls, what are you doing? Trying to persuade them into leasing that house?
Yeah. So what happens is our leads funnel into, from Zillow, from Realtor, from Rent Cafe, from our own website, all to, we have certain properties that are in our what's called territory. So let's just say it's 10 people that are looking at one particular house in my territory. All those leads come to me. And then I just call them and try to walk them through the process. Sometimes it's not a right fit. Sometimes I know that the criteria, unfortunately, they would be denied through the criteria. So I kind of help break the news on that aspect. And then, and other than that, just kind of help them and walk them through the application process.
So as you said, with you having your territories with your leasing, would that mean you just get like a few specific areas to work on?
My particular territory is it ranges about 125 miles. So I specifically have just below 800. I'm like right at 785 homes in my territory. So of course those aren't all available right now and they are leased, but they're recurring, vacancies. People always are moving out. People are always moving in. So at any given time, I should have, a bank of about 50 properties to work with.
So with the territories, would there be more than one leasing agent per territory, like for competition?
No, there wouldn't be more than one agent for one territory. But for instance, like in our office for our market, we range anywhere from, it's 3 agents for sure, but then we're right at 1,900 homes for our entire market.
So I heard a fun little statistic about you. At one point, you were number 1 in the nation for leasing, correct?
Yes.
So how did you accomplish that?
I worked my ass off.
Great way to put it. But how many homes did you lease out in 1 month, or did you do that in a span of a couple months?
No, it was within 1 month. I leased anywhere from around 20 homes up to 45 homes in 1 month. You just work hard. Answering every call, being on standby to help somebody get in through a lockbox system that's confusing for some people. Just being there.
Your need, or is there a shortage of your position?
No, I don't think there's necessarily a shortage of my position. You got to take into account there's going to be let's just say out of 100 calls, you're not going to be able to catch everybody. You're going to leave a lot of messages.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to leave messages, I'll follow up with emails. A lot of people won't even call me back. They just email me back, especially in the age of the electronic world that we live in. Most people don't want to answer the phone if they don't recognize that number. That's why it's just easy to either send them a quick text or send them an email just saying who I am, why I'm calling, and let me know how I can help. And usually that's how you can start dialogue.
So in today's era, what do you think the best way to get a hold of someone to lease them out a home? Would it be email, call, text?
I think first would be email. Secondly would be a text. And then third would be a phone call. Because if people are working, I'm the same way. If I don't necessarily recognize the number, am I going to be super apt to answer the phone at night if somebody's trying to reach me? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
But during the day I would, because it's probably a prospect or lead calling me back.
So when you work, do you work on the weekends, or is it just weekdays, or can you log in throughout the entire week?
Definitely Monday through Friday. Saturday, Sunday, I'm always
off and on.
But yeah, I'm at least plugging in every day.
Just to check out if you got any more leases and stuff like that.
If there's applications sitting there, what do they look like? Are they ready to go into our application team for approval? Always trying to keep your eyes on what's called the dashboard.
So for anyone that's trying to get into this real estate field, is there any, tips or anything they should know about the field before they really dive into it?
be prepared to work hard and work long hours. If you're going to venture into the sales and general side of it, you need to make sure you have a good bank of about 6 months as far as to cover all your expenses. Otherwise, you will fail because sales takes a long time. Even when you do write your first contract, and by the time you write your first contract and it's executed to closing and you actually get paid your commission from your broker, I mean, it could be anywhere from 2 to 3 months. So you really have to have a cushion there to survive for you and your family. Leasing is a little bit different. Just be prepared to, of course, like I said, because you do make that hourly rate, but your commission, your bonuses aren't really going to kick in till month 2. But be prepared to work hard. It's not a 8 to 5 job. You will be answering the phone often.
So final question of the evening, is leasing agent, is it all worth it at the end?
Totally worth it.
Do you have any final things to say to the people wanting to indulge themselves in your career path?
No, just be willing to work hard if you're going to make that step.
All right, that's been this week's episode of Career Paths. In next week's episode, we'll have an AMP mechanic. Stay tuned for that. Make sure to subscribe and like, share the video. Have a good evening.